That's Barbara, Christy, Trina. Had to do a screenshot for YouTube. Okay. All right, beautiful people. The sun is already shining. All right, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. Let's pull up on the stove. I'm sorry, it's Cardi by another name. Demi, Shalom. Melinda Brown, Shalom. Tiffany, Sawubona, Yaya. Peace of blessings, Aliyah. All right, beautiful people. Happy Saturday. I'm sorry, I'm bringing up the shimmy, y'all. There we go. All right. Happy Saturday, beautiful people. Tiffany, you went both places. Oh no, you went to YouTube. All right, y'all. Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. It is April the 17th, 2021, day 130 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets. And today, it is the last day of the 700-day count, right? Day 799. Tomorrow, day 800. 800. Remember that it's not the Sabbath days or the feast day Sabbath days added to the count. All right, beautiful people. Today we are reading 1 Kings 19, 20, and 21, and then we hop over to the Legends of the Jews and pick it up where we left off yesterday on page 485. Oh, something I want to show y'all real quick. Remember I told y'all yesterday, this is the book we're going to be reading next, Fossilized Customs. If you didn't get a screenshot of it, hold on, make sure it's not. Make sure you see it. Go ahead and get it now. You can find it on Amazon. It's by Lew White, L-E-W, White, like the color white, Lew White. That's not right. We went over the table of contents about what is in there. But remember I told you, if you find some of the previous editions and you can't find 12, which you should be able to find 12. Matter of fact, if you can't find it on Amazon, you can go right to his website, which I don't think I mentioned yesterday, which is called the Torah Institute. But I actually think it's Torah Zone. Hold on. And you can get it directly from there. TorahZone.net. Yep. TorahZone.net. Okay, that's T-O-R. Y'all know how to spell Torah. But just in case, www.TorahZone.net. N-E-T. Net's like Fisher's Net. N-E-T. TorahZone.net. Alright. And the older book looked like this, right? All of the older versions, previous versions, let me see. Okay. It looked like that with the footprint on the front. And the footprint represents, he explains to you why he used a footprint, but it says it represents his walk throughout life as Yahuah was revealing truth, right? The more he walked with Yah, the more truth Yah revealed to him. So that's pretty good, y'all. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started with the Shema here, which is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6. Remember, read the whole chapter for full context, people, right? And you should always make it just a good rule of habit. If you're trying to get the proper context of something, I mentioned it before. My mom always taught us growing up, always read the 2 previous chapters and the 2 following chapters. Make sure you're keeping it within its proper context. But depending on where you're at and what you're looking for, like one particular chapter they take out of context, like with King Hezekiah, where they bring him up, where they're, instead of just saying his name like they did his 3 previous forefathers ahead of him, which he would be the 4th one in the reign of this particular line that Yahuah was telling the prophet Isaiah. Instead of just saying his name, Hezekiah, they gave the attributes of his name, right? And that's been a lot of times taken out of context in the church. He shall be called Mighty Counselor, Prince of Peace. You know, during his, you gotta go back and find the video where I did that and I explained it. Matter of fact, I did a whole video. I believe I did. It's been a couple months now. I'll find that video. Matter of fact, I shared it with somebody not too long ago. What was it called? Anyway, I'll find it. But anyway, when you get to chapters like that, I would say it's good. It's good to read more than the 2 previous chapters, because what they're explaining spans over like the course of a period of time, and you have to see they'll start with First Kings reigning into here and here, and who did these kings come to see, and this is the report that the kings heard and what they told the people, right? So sometimes it's good. I would say read I know with that you got to read at least like the previous, I want to say 4 chapters. Matter of fact, all of that, look, if you're trying to exegete anything out of the book of Isaiah, you're just going to have to read the whole book of Isaiah all together. Matter of fact, you had to, it's just get into the habit of reading all of it, y'all. All of it. For proper context. Because things that they take out of context, you can find it in its original setting in the Old Testament within its proper context, within the preceding and the following chapters. Yesterday, yeah. Holly, y'all. Hey, baby girl. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and get started. We gotta put some more. Go upstairs and climb on our bed too. I'll be down shortly. What?
You don't watch all the movies?
Mm-hmm. I watched it all through. Okay, y'all. Let's get started with this shimmer. Go get some pants put on. Look on the rocking chair in the room and get your pants off and then put those on. Tara will be over here in a little bit. All right, y'all. Shimmer. Deuteronomy chapter 6.
Jace?
I believe Jace is coming too. You gotta go put on some pants. Okay? Go ahead. Deuteronomy chapter 6, starting at verse 3. The Shema, hear, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuah, our God, He is one God, and you shall love Yahuah, your God, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart, and you shall teach them diligently unto your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuah our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuah our God as He has commanded us. Okay, beautiful people, let's go right on over here to the reading. Down in 1 Kings chapter 19. All right. When Ahab got home, hold on, before I get started, I'm going to hit some water. Sorry. All right, y'all. 1 Kings chapter 19. When Ahab got home, he told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, including the way he had killed all the prophets of Baal. So Jezebel sent this message to Elijah. May the gods strike me and even kill me by this time tomorrow. Hold on. May the gods strike me and even kill me if by this time tomorrow I have not killed you just as you have killed them. Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left his servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Yah, he said. Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died. Then he lay down and slept under the broom tree. But as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and told him, Get up and eat. He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank and lay down again. Then the angel of Yahuah came again and touched him and said, Get up, eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you. So he got up, ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of Yah. There he came to a cave where he spent the night. But Yahuah said to him, Look, I've read this so many times, but I just realized, like, it told me where, clearly it tells us where he was going. We know Sinai. It's the place where Yahuah resides, right? It's the portal into heaven. But all this time it says, but it just clicked, like, he was really scared. He was running to go see Yah. He said, Father, that's it. Take me now. I'm coming to you. Like, he was on his way to see Yah. Look. Then the angel of Yahuah came again and touched him and said, Get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead will be too much for you. So he got up, ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of Yahuah. There he came to a cave where he spent the night. But Yahuah said to him, What are you doing here, Elijah? Elijah replied, I have zealously served you, God Almighty, but the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you, torn down your altars, and killed every one of your prophets. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. Go out and stand before me on the mountain, Yahuah told him. And as Elijah stood there, Yahuah passed by, and a mighty windstorm hit the mountain. It was such a terrible blast that the rocks were torn loose, but Yahuah was not in the wind. After the wind, there was an earthquake, but Yahuah was not in the earthquake. After the earthquake, there was a fire, but Yahuah was not in the fire. And after the fire, there was a sound of a gentle whisper. When Elijah heard it, he wrapped his face in his cloak, and he went out and stood at the entrance of the cave. He probably wrapped his whole face. No, he probably wrapped it to where, you know how they do. He got his face. He went out to the end of the cave. And a voice said, What are you doing here, Elijah? And he replied again, I have zealously served Yahuah, the God Almighty. But the people of Israel have broken their covenant with you, torn down your altars, and killed every one of your prophets. I am the only one left, and now they are trying to kill me too. Then Yahuah told him, Go back the same way you came, and travel to the wilderness of Damascus. When you arrive there, anoint Hazael to be king of Aram. Then anoint Jehu, grandson of Nimshi, to be king of Israel, and anoint Elisha, son of Shaphat, from the town of Abel Meholah, to replace you as my prophet. Anyone who escapes from Hazael will be killed by Jehu, and those who escape Jehu will be killed by Elisha. Yet I will preserve 7,000 others in Israel who have never bowed down to Baal or kissed him. So Elijah went and found Elisha, son of Shaphat, plowing a field. There were 12 teams of oxen in the field, and Elisha was plowing with the 12th team. Elisha went over to him and threw his cloak across his shoulders and then walked away. Elisha left the oxen standing there, ran after Elijah and said to him, "First, let me go kiss my father and my mother goodbye, and then I will go with you." Elijah replied, "Go on back, but think about what I have done to you." So Elisha returned to his oxen and slaughtered them. He used the wood from the plow to build a fire to roast their flesh. He passed around the meat to the townspeople, and they all ate. Then he went with Elijah as his assistant. Next chapter, 1 Kings chapter 20. About the time King Ben-Hadad of Aram mobilized his army, supported by the chariots and horses of 32. Hold on, I read it too fast. About that time, King Ben-Hadad of Aram mobilized his army, supported by the chariots and horses of 32 allied kings. They went to besiege Samaria, the capital of Israel, and launched attacks against it. Ben-Hadad sent messengers into the city to relay his message to King Ahab of Israel. This is what Ben-Hadad says: "Your silver and gold are mine, and so are your wives and the beasts of your children." And the best of your children. "All right, my lord the king," Israel's king replied. "All I have is yours." Soon Ben-Hadad's messengers returned again and said, "This is what Ben-Hadad says: I have already demanded that you give me your silver, gold, wives, and children. But about this time tomorrow, I will send my officials to search your palace and the homes of your officials. They will take away everything you consider valuable." Then Ahab summoned all the elders of the land and said to them, "Look how this man is stirring up trouble. I already agreed with his demand that I give him my wives and children and silver and gold. Don't give in to any more demands," all the elders and the people advised. So Ahab told the messengers from Ben-Hadad, "Say this to my lord the king: I will give you everything you asked for the first time, but I cannot accept this last demand of yours." So the messengers returned to Ben-Hadad with that response. Then Ben-Hadad sent this message to Ahab: "May the gods strike me and even kill me if there remains enough dust from Samaria to provide even a handful for each of my soldiers." The king of Israel sent back this answer: "A warrior putting on his sword for battle should not boast like a warrior who has already won." Ahab's reply reached Ben-Hadad and the other kings as they were drinking in their tents. "Prepare to attack," Ben-Hadad commanded his officers, so they prepared to attack the city. Then a certain prophet came to see King Ahab of Israel and told him, "This is what Yahuah says: Do you see all these enemy forces? Today I will hand them over to you. Then you will know that I am Yahuah." Ahab asked, "How will he do it?" And the prophet replied, "This is what Yahuah says: The troops of the provincial commanders will do it." "Should we attack first?" Ahab asked. "Yes," the prophet answered. So Ahab mustered the troops of the 232 provincial commanders. Then he called out the rest of the army of Israel, some 7,000 men. About noontime, as Ben-Hadad and the 32 allied kings were still in their tents drinking themselves into a stupor, the troops of the provincial commanders marched out of the city as the first contingent. As they approached, Ben-Hadad's scouts reported to him, Some troops are coming from Samaria. Take them alive," Ben-Hadad commanded, "whether they have come for peace or for war." But Ahab's provincial commanders and the entire army had now come out to fight. Each Israelite soldier killed his Aramean opponent, and suddenly the entire Aramean army panicked and fled. The Israelites chased them, but King Hadad and a few of his charioteers escaped on horses. However, the king of Israel destroyed the other horses and chariots and slaughtered the Arameans. After the prophet said to King Ahab, "Get ready for another attack. Begin making plans now, for the king of Aram will come back next spring." After their defeat, then Hadad's officers said to him, "The Israelite gods are gods of the hills. That is why they won. But we can beat them easily on the plains. Only this time replace the kings with field commanders. Recruit another army like the one you lost. Give us the same number of horses, chariots, and men, and we will fight against them on the plains. There is no doubt that we will beat them." So King Ben-Hadad did as they suggested. The following spring, he called up the Aramean army and marched out against Israel, this time at Aphek. Israel then mustered up its army, set up supply lines, and marched out for battle. But the Israelite army looked like two little flocks of goats in comparison to the vast Aramean forces field in the countryside. Then the man of Yah went to the king of Israel and said, "This is what Yahuah says. The Arameans have said, Yahuah is a God of the hills and not of the plains. So I will defeat this vast army for you. Then you will know that I am the Lord." The two armies camped opposite each other for 7 days, and on the seventh day the battle began. The Israelites killed 100,000 Aramean foot soldiers in one day. The rest fled into the town of Aphek, but the wall fell on them and killed another 27,000. Ben-Hadad fled into the town and hid in a secret room. Ben-Hadad's officer said to him, "Sir, we have heard that the kings of Israel are merciful. So let's humble ourselves by wearing burlap around our waist and putting ropes on our heads and surrendering to the king of Israel. Then perhaps he will let you live." So they put on burlap and ropes, and they went to the king of Israel and begged, "Your servant Ben-Hadad says, please let me live." The king of Israel responded, "Is he still alive? He is my brother." The men took this as a good sign and quickly picked up on his words. "Yes," they said, "your brother Ben-Hadad." "Go get him," the king of Israel told them. And when Ben-Hadad arrived, Ahab invited him up into his chariot. Ben-Hadad told him, "I will give back the towns my father took from your father, and may you establish places of trade in Damascus, as my father did in Samaria." Then Ahab said, "I will release you under these conditions." So they made a new treaty, and Ben-Hadad was set free. Meanwhile, Yahuah instructed one of the group of the prophets to say to another man, "Hit me." But the man refused to hit the prophet. Then the prophet told him, "Because you have not obeyed the voice of Yahuah, a lion will kill you as soon as you leave me." And when he had gone, a lion did attack and kill him. See how you listen to the time markers, right? Trina, hey girl, look, you on YouTube. So decide to see how it works. Mom, shalom. Okay, well, you got it right, sis. Listen to the time marker, right? When Yahuah says something is going to happen, right? It happens exactly when Yahuah said. And this time, it was, as soon as you leave me, this is going to happen. Let's read it again. Meanwhile, Yahuah instructed one of the group of prophets to say to another man, "Hit me." But the man refused to hit the prophet. Then the prophet told him, "Because you have not obeyed the voice of Yahuah, a lion will kill you as soon as you leave me." And when he had gone, a lion did attack and kill him. Shalom, Joanne. Then the prophet turned to another man and said, "Hit me." So he struck the prophet and wounded him. The prophet placed a bandage over his eyes to disguise himself, and then waited beside the road for the king. As the king passed by, the prophet called out to him, "Sir, I was in the thick of battle, and suddenly a man brought me a prisoner." He said, "Guard this man. If for any reason he gets away, you will either die or pay a fine of 75 pounds of silver." But while I was busy doing something else, the prisoner disappeared. "Well, it's your own fault," the king replied. "You have brought the judgment on yourself." Then the prophet quickly pulled the bandage from his eyes, and the king of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. The prophet said to him, "This is what Yahuah says. Because you have spared the man, I must be destroyed." Hold on. I'm sorry. I read that wrong. Let me go back. Then the prophet quickly pulled the bandage from his eyes, and the king of Israel recognized him as one of the prophets. The prophet said to him, "This is what Yahuah says. Because you have spared the man I said must be destroyed, now you must die in his place, and your people will die instead of his people." So the king of Israel went home to Samaria, angry and sullen. Last chapter for the day, y'all. Notice, I'll bring that up later. Okay. Last chapter for today. 1 Kings chapter 21. Now there was a man named Naboth from Jezreel who owned a vineyard in Jezreel beside the palace of King Ahab of Samaria. One day Ahab said to Naboth, "Since your vineyard is so convenient to my place, I would like to buy it and use as a vegetable garden. I will give you a better vineyard in exchange, or if you prefer, I will pay you for it." But Naboth replied, "Yahuah forbid that I should give you the inheritance that was passed down by my ancestors." So Ahab went home angry and sullen because of Naboth's answer. The king went to bed with his face to the wall and refused to eat. "What's the matter?" his wife Jezebel asked him. "What's made you so upset that you're not eating?" "I asked Naboth to sell me his vineyard or trade it, but he refused," Ahab told her. "Are you the king of Israel or not?" Jezebel demanded. "Get up and eat something, and don't worry about it. I'll get you Naboth's vineyard." So she wrote letters in Ahab's name, sealed them with his seal, and sent them to the elders of the other leaders of the town where Naboth lived. In her letters she commanded, "Call the citizens together for a time of fasting, and give Naboth a place of honor, and then seat 2 scoundrels across from him who will accuse him of cursing Yah and the king. Then take him out and stone him to death." So the elders of the other town leaders followed the instructions of Jezebel had written. Let me read that again. I'm reading it too slow. So the elders and the other town leaders followed the instructions Jezebel had written in the letters. They called for a fast and put Naboth at a prominent place before the people. The 2 scoundrels came and sat down across from him, and they accused Naboth before all the people, saying, "He cursed Yah and the king." So he was dragged outside the town and stoned to death. The town leaders then sent word to Jezebel, "Naboth has been stoned to death." When Jezebel heard the news, she said to Ahab, "You know the vineyard Naboth wouldn't sell you? Well, you can have it now. He's dead." So Ahab immediately went down to the vineyard of Naboth to claim it. But Yahuah said to Elijah, "Go down to meet King Ahab of Israel, who rules in Samaria. He will be at Naboth's vineyard in Jezreel, claiming it for himself. Give him this message. This is what Yahuah says. Wasn't it enough that you killed Naboth? Must you also rob him too? Because you have done this, dogs will lick your blood at the very place where they licked the blood of Naboth. So my enemy, you have found me," Ahab exclaimed to Elijah. "Yes," Elijah answered. "I have come because you have sold yourself to what is evil in Yahuah's sight. So now Yahuah says, I will bring disaster on you and consume you. I will destroy every one of your male descendants, slave and free alike, anywhere in Israel. I am going to destroy your family, as I did the family of Jeroboam, son of Nebat, and the family of Baasha, son of Ahijah, for you have made me very angry and have led Israel into sin." And regarding Jezebel, Yahuah says, "Dog will eat Jezebel's body at the plot of land in Jezreel. The members of Ahab's family who die in the city will be eaten by dogs, and those who die in the field will be eaten by vultures." Remember when Yahuah told them that? I think we read that yesterday. That was the prophecy that went over him and his family. This is going to happen to all those in your family. The members of Ahab's family who die in the city will be eaten by dogs, and those who die in the field will be eaten by vultures. So no one else so completely sold himself to do what was evil in Yahuah's sight as Ahab did under the influence of his wife Jezebel. His worst outrage was worshiping idols, just as the Amorites had done, the people whom Yahuah had driven out from the land ahead of the Israelites. But when Ahab heard this message, he tore his clothing, dressed in burlap, and fasted. He even slept in burlap and went about in deep mourning. Then another message from Yahuah came to Elijah. "Do you see how Ahab has humbled himself before me? Because he has done this, I will not do what I promised during his lifetime. It will happen to his sons. I will destroy his dynasty." Whew. All right, y'all. So that's our reading for today over here in 1 Kings. That was 1 Kings 19, 20, and 21. Okay. So let's hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. Y'all pick up where we left off yesterday. On page 485. Okay, we heard about what happened with Cyrus and Darius, and Daniel was lastly under Darius, King Darius. Okay, let me read this last little section. It's like 5 sentences from yesterday about Daniel at the end of this, and then we're going to pick up on the next section where it's talking about the grave of Daniel. Okay. The miraculous escape of Daniel brought him more distinguished consideration and greater honors than before. The king Tootie, wait a minute. You go ahead, you can do it. The king published the wonders done by Yahuah in all parts of his land, and called upon the people to betake themselves to Jerusalem and help in the erection of the temple. Daniel entreated the king to relieve him of the duties of his position, for the performance of which he no longer felt himself fit on the account of his advanced age. The king consented on a condition that Daniel designate a successor worthy of him. His choice fell upon Zerubbabel. Loaded with rich presents and amid public demonstrations, he designed to honor him. Daniel retired. Go ahead, please. Daniel retired from public life. He settled in the city of Shushan, where he abode until his end. Though he was no prophet, Yahuah vouchsafed to him a knowledge of the end time not granted to his friends, the prophets Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. But even he, in the fullness of his years, lost all memory of the revelation with which he had been favored. Put a little bit up there. All right, now is a section about the grave of Daniel, y'all. Daniel was buried in Shushan, on account of which a sore quarrel was enkindled among the inhabitants of the city. Shushan is divided into 2 parts by a river. The side containing the grave of Daniel was occupied by wealthy inhabitants, and the poor citizens lived on the other side of the river. The latter maintained that they too would be rich if the grave of Daniel were in their quarter. The frequent disputes and conflicts were finally adjusted by a compromise. One year, the bier of Daniel reposed on one side of the river, the next year on the other. When the Persian king Sanjar came to Shushan, he put a stop to the practice of dragging the bier hither and thither. Like, let this man body rest in peace. They say, okay, we would be rich over here too if the body of Daniel was on our side. They said, look, this is how we're going to solve this. Okay, this year, y'all keep his casket over there. Next year, it's ours, right? So year after year, they was moving this man casket back and forth across this river to each of the sides so they too could be wealthy. How selfish, right? And inconsiderate. When the Persian king Sanjar came to Shushan, he put a stop to the practice of dragging the bier hither and thither. The bier, B-I-E-R, it's like a casket. Hold on. Oh, okay. I thought he said he was taking his car to go get an oil change. He's taking my truck to go get an oil change. Okay, husband. I'm sorry, y'all. I had to double check because I didn't think my truck was going to be moving. I'm sorry. When the Persian king Sanjar came to Shushan, he put a stop to the practice of dragging the bier hither and thither. He resorted to another device for guarding the peace of the city. He had the bier suspended from the chains precisely. Good gracious. I guess this can't be any worse, right? At least they're not moving it. He got it. Let me read this. He had the bier suspended from the chains precisely in the middle of the bridge spanning the river. In the same spot, he erected a house of prayer for all confessions. Out of respect to Daniel, he prohibited fishing in the river for a distance of a mile on either side of the memorial building. The sacredness of the spot appeared when the godless tried to pass by. They were drowned, while the pious remained unscathed. Furthermore, the fish that swam near it had heads glittering like gold. Well, I guess it was the body of Daniel, huh? Look, remember how we read before? It said the righteous are a shield to their nation? In more ways than one, right? Look. Beside the house of Daniel, lay a stone under which he had concealed the holy temple vessels. Once an attempt was made to roll the stone from its place, but whoever ventured to touch it fell dead. The same fate overtook all who later tried to make excavations near the spot. A storm broke out and mowed them down. All right, we're moving to the section about Zerubbabel now. This was the successor to Daniel, right? Okay. The successor to Daniel in the service of the king, Zerubbabel, enjoyed... I'm sorry, y'all be getting tongue twisted sometime. Hold on. Okay. The successor to Daniel in the service of the king, Zerubbabel, enjoyed equally as much royal consideration and affection. He occupied a higher position than all the other servants and officials, and he and 2 others constituted the bodyguard of the king. Once, when the king lay wrapped in deep slumber, his guards resolved to write down what each of them considered the mightiest thing in the world. And he who wrote the sage's saying would be given rich presents and rewards by the king. What they wrote, they lay under the pillow on which the head of the king rested, that he might not delay to make a decision after he awoke. The first one wrote, "Wine is the mightiest thing there is." The second wrote, "The king is the mightiest on the earth." And the third, Zerubbabel, wrote, "Women are the mightiest in the world, but truth prevails over all else." When he say that, it kind of remind me of, I shared this with you before. Some of y'all hear me say it from time to time, where they talk about a husband and a wife. They said the husband may be the head, but the woman is the neck, and the neck turns the head wherever it wants to, right? Hey, that's why you need to have good neck. I'm just saying. Make sure it ain't turning you in a place you ain't supposed to be, like Jezebel did to Ahab, who with a bad neck. The king is the mightiest on the earth. And the third, Zerubbabel, wrote, "Women are the mightiest in the world, but truth prevails over all else." When the king awoke, he perused the document. He summoned the grandees of his realm and the 3 youths as well. Each of the 3 was called upon to justify his saying. In eloquent words, the first prescribed the potency of wine. When it takes possession of the senses of a man, he forgets grief and sorrow. Still more beautiful and convincing were the words of the second speaker, when his turn came to establish the truth of his saying that the king was the mightiest on the earth. Finally, Zerubbabel depicted in glowing words the power of women who rules even over kings. Clearly we see Jezebel and Ahab. But, he continued, truth is supreme over all. The whole earth asks for truth. The heavens sing the praises of truth. All creation quakes and trembles before truth. Naught of wrong can be found in truth. Unto truth belongeth the might, the dominion, the power, and the glory of all times. Blessed be the God of truth. When Zerubbabel ceased from speaking, the assembly broke out into the words, "Great is truth. It is mightier than all else." The king was so charmed with the wisdom of Zerubbabel that he said to him, "Ask for aught thou wishest, and it shall be granted thee." Zerubbabel required nothing for himself. He only sought permission of the king to restore Jerusalem, rebuild the sanctuary, and return the holy temple vessels to the place whence they had been carried off. Not only did Darius grant what Zerubbabel wished for, not only did he give him letters of safe conduct, but he also conferred numerous privileges upon the Hebrews who accompanied Zerubbabel to Palestine, and he sent abundant presents to the temple and its officers. As unto his predecessor Daniel, so unto Zerubbabel Yahuah vouchsafed a knowledge of the secrets of the future. Especially the archangel Metatron dealt kindly with him. Who did we learn that Metatron is, right? Who was Metatron while he was still on the earth? I'll wait. He is also called the angel of the face, right? Who is it? I'll wait. Somebody. Drop it in the chat box. Facebook. YouTube. Who is Metatron? Or the angel of the face? Or his earthly name? Thank you. Enoch. Yes, Enoch is Metatron, or the angel of the face, right? Because after his reign of the 257, I think it was 257 years that he reigned over men. Remember, he was going back and forth, right? All the wisdom that he was learning through that portal from heaven, from the angels, he came back. Yahuwah said, teach these laws, statutes, and commands to men on the earth, right? They made him king. He was king for 257 years. Remember, they lived a whole lot longer than we did, right? At the end of his time, he was transported to heaven, and he was changed. He was changed into the angel of the face, right? Or Metatron. Okay. As unto his predecessor, Daniel, so unto Zerubbabel, Yahuwah vouchsafed a knowledge of the secrets of the future. Especially the archangel Metatron dealt kindly with him, besides revealing to him the time at which the Messiah would appear. He brought about an interview between the Messiah and Zerubbabel. In reality, Zerubbabel was none other than Nehemiah, who was given this second name because he was born in Babylon. That's what I was about to say. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this was Nehemiah that this happened to. I didn't realize until I listened to this portion of it, but I didn't catch it the first time. But as I was just reading, I was like, wait, that was Nehemiah that Paris did all that for. I was like, wait, maybe we're missing this part about Zerubbabel, but Nehemiah is Zerubbabel, right? And that is common because they had, a lot of them had multiple names. Like what King Solomon's other name, was it? I think it was Jedediah was King Solomon's other name. All of them, they had a couple different names, and sometimes they use them interchangeably. And if we're not paying attention, we miss it, and we think it's a whole nother person, right? Okay. In reality, Zerubbabel was none other than Nehemiah, who was given this second name because he was born in Babylon. Richly endowed as Zerubbabel, Nehemiah was with admirable qualities. He yet did not lack faults. He was excessively self-complacent, and he did not hesitate to fasten a stigma publicly upon his predecessors in the office of governor in the land of Judah, among whom was so excellent a man as Daniel. To punish him for these transgressions, the book of Ezra does not bear the name of its real author, Nehemiah, although I kind of deduced that it was Nehemiah. Just by reading and becoming familiar with the book, right? I love the book of Ezra. And Nehemiah, all of them, right? And plus, if you read some of the other books where it's talking about Ezra, you can kind of see how they flow together, and it's like the same writer. Okay, when Darius felt his end approach, he appointed his son-in-law Cyrus, who had hitherto reigned only over Persia, to be the ruler over his kingdom as well. His wish was honored by the princes of Media and Persia. After Darius had departed this life, Cyrus was proclaimed king. In the very first year of his reign, Cyrus summoned the most distinguished of the Hebrews to appear before him, and he gave them permission to return to Palestine and rebuild the temple at Jerusalem. More than this, he pledged himself to contribute to the temple service in proportion to his means and pay honor to the God who had invested him with strength to subdue the Chaldeans. These actions of Cyrus partly flowed from his own pious inclinations and partly were due to his desire to accomplish the dying behest of Darius, who had admonished him to give the Hebrews opportunity to rebuild the temple. When the first sacrifice was to be brought by the company of Hebrews who returned to Jerusalem under the leadership of Ezra, and set about restoring the temple, they missed the celestial fire which had dropped from heaven on the altar in the time of Moses and had not been extinguished so long as the temple stood. They turned in supplication to Yahuah to be instructed by him. The celestial fire had been hidden by Jeremiah at the time of the destruction of the holy city, and the law did not permit them to bring strange fire upon the altar of Yahuah. An old man suddenly remembered the spot in which Jeremiah had buried the holy fire, and he led the elders thither. They rolled away the stone, uncovering the spot, and from under it appeared a spring flowing not with water, but with a sort of oil. Ezra ordered this fluid to be sprinkled upon the altar, and forthwith an all-consuming flame shot up. The priests themselves scattered in fright. But after the temple and its vessels were purified by the flame, it confined itself to the altar, never more to leave it. For the priests guarded it so that it might not be extinguished. Among the band of returned exiles were the prophets Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi. Each one of them had a place of the greatest importance in... Hold on. Okay. Each one of them had a place of the greatest importance to fill in the rebuilding of the temple. By the first, the people were shown the plan of the altar, which was larger than the one that had stood in Solomon's temple. The second informed them of the exact location of the altar, and the third taught them that the sacrifices might be brought on the holy place even before the completion of the temple. On the authority of one of the prophets, the Hebrews, on their return from Babylonia, gave up their original Hebrew characters and rewrote the Torah in Assyrian characters, still in use at this day. While the temple work was in progress, the builders found the skull of Araunah, the owner of the temple site in the time of David. The priests, unlearned as they were, could not decide to what extent the corpse laying there had defiled the holy place. It was for this that Haggai poured out his reproaches upon them. So we got 47? Okay, we're good. Let's go ahead. We're going to read this section about Ezra. It's so good, guys. Okay. Ezra. The complete resettlement of Palestine took place under the direction of Ezra, or as the scriptures sometimes call him, Malachi. He had not been present at the earlier attempts to restore the sanctuary because he could not leave his old teacher Baruch, who was too advanced in years, to venture upon the difficult journey to the Holy Land. In spite of Ezra's persuasive efforts, it was but a comparatively small portion of the people that joined the procession winding its way westward to Palestine. For this reason, the prophetical spirit did not show itself during the existence of the Second Temple. Haggai, Zechariah, and Malachi were the last representatives of prophecy. Nothing more surprising than the apathy. Hold on. Okay, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Nothing was more surprising than the apathy of the Levites. They manifested no desire to return to Palestine. Yes.
Okay, Auntie.
What?
Jay's coming over.
Yes, I think he's coming. Okay, calm down.
I'll be right back in.
Okay. Nothing was more surprising than the apathy of the Levites. They manifested no desire to return to Palestine. Their punishment was the loss of the tithes, which were later given to the priests, though the Levites had first claim upon them. In restoring the Hebrew state in Palestine, Ezra cherished two hopes: to preserve the purity of the Hebrew race and to spread the study of the Torah until it should become the common property of the people at large. To help on his first purpose, he inveighed against marriages between Hebrews and the nations round about. He himself had carefully worked out his own pedigree before he consented to leave Babylonia in order to perpetuate the purity of the families and groups remaining in the east. he took all the unfit with him to Palestine. In the realization of his second hope, the spread of the Torah, Ezra was so zealous and efficient that it was justly said of him, if Moses had not anticipated him, Ezra would have received the Torah. In a sense, he was indeed a second Moses. If Torah had fallen into neglect and oblivion in this day, he restored and reestablished it in the minds of his people. It is due to him chiefly that it was divided up into portions to be read annually, Sabbath after Sabbath, in the synagogues, and he it was likewise who originated the idea of rewriting the Pentateuch in the Assyrian characters. To further his purpose still more, he ordered additional schools for children to be established everywhere, though the old ones sufficed to satisfy the demand. He thought the rivalry between the old and new institutions would redound to the benefit of the pupils. Ezra is the originator of institutions known as the 10 Regulations of Ezra. They are the following: reading from the Torah on Sabbath afternoons, reading from the Torah on Mondays and Thursdays, sessions on the court on Mondays and Thursdays, to do laundry work on Thursdays, not Fridays, to eat garlic on Friday on its account of solitary action, to bake bread early in the morning that it may be ready for the poor whenever they ask for some. Women are to cover the lower parts of their bodies with a garment called sinar. Before taking a ritual bath, the hair is to be combed. The ritual bath prescribed for the unclean is to cover the case of one who desires to offer prayer or study law. Permission to peddlers to sell cosmetics to women in the towns. Ezra was not only a great teacher of his people and their wise leader, he was also their advocate with the celestials, to whom his revelation of a peculiarly... Let me go back. Ezra was not only a great teacher of his people and their wise leader, he was also their advocate with the celestials, to whom his relation was of a peculiar. Y'all know what I'm saying. Look, this word be tripping me up sometimes. Peculiarly intimate character. I know I still screwed that up, but y'all know what I'm saying. Once he addressed a prayer to Yahuah, in which he complained of the misfortune of Israel and the prosperity of the heathen nations. Thereupon the angel Uriel appeared to him and instructed him how that evil has its appointed time in which to run its course, as the dead have their appointed time to sojourn in the netherworld. Ezra could not rest satisfied with this explanation, and in response to his further question, 7 prophetic visions were vouchsafed him and interpreted by the angel for him. They typified the whole course of history up to his day and disclosed the future to his eyes. In the 7th vision, he heard a voice from a thorn bush like Moses aforetimes, and it admonished him to guard in his heart the secrets revealed to him. The same voice had given Moses a similar injunction. These words shalt thou publish, those shalt thou keep secret. Okay. These words thou shalt publish, those thou shalt keep secret. Then his early translation from earth was announced to him. He besought Yahuah to let the Holy Spirit descend upon him before he died, so that he might record all that had happened since the creation of the world, as it was set down in the Torah, and guide men upon the path that leads to Yahuah. Hereupon Yahuah bade him, I explained this to y'all, I guess it was almost a week ago now about this, right? How, you remember how I said we were talking about some of our history and scrolls and stuff that had been lost, and Yahuah is revealing those things, and there are some that have been lost forever, or it would seem to be forever, that were completely burned up. There are no records. I said I believe Yahuah can restore those to us, just like he did with Ezra. When the king burned up all the records, Yahuah told Ezra, go on a fast. I'm gonna give it all to you, word for word. I'm gonna reveal it to you. He did. He said, get your 5 scribes, filled with my spirit, and bring them with you, right? And he revealed everything. So this is going into detail about that, what we was talking about a week ago. Listen. Let me just go back up here. In the seventh vision, he heard a voice from a thorn bush, like Moses aforetimes, and it admonished him to guard in his heart the secrets revealed to him. The same voice had given Moses a similar injunction. These words shalt thou publish, those thou shalt keep secret. Then his early translation from earth was announced to him. He besought Yahuah to let the Holy Spirit descend upon him before he died, so that he might record all that had happened since the creation of the world, as it was set down in the Torah, and guide men on the path that leads to Yahuah. Hereupon Yahuah bade him take 5 experienced scribes, Sarga, Debria, Seleucia, Ethan, and Aziel, with him into retirement to dictate to them for 40 days. After 1 day spent with these writers in isolation, remote from the city and from men, a voice admonished him, Ezra, open thy mouth and drink whereof I give thee to drink. He opened his mouth, and a chalice was handed to him, filled to the brim with a liquid that flowed like water, but in color resembled fire. His mouth opened to drink, and for 40 days it was not closed. During all the time, the 5 scribes put down in signs they did not understand. During all that time, 5 scribes put down in signs they did not understand. They were the newly adopted Hebrew characters, all that Ezra dictated to them, and it made 94 books. At the end of the 40 days period, Yahuah spoke to Ezra thus: 24 books of the Holy Scriptures thou shalt publish, for the worthy and the unworthy alike to read. But the last 70 books thou shalt withhold from the populace, for the pursuer of the wise of the people. Let's see it again. We talked about this before. We read Ezra too. We read through it the second time. First, they call it first Esdras and second Esdras, but it's actually the third book and the fourth book of Ezra. Like, it should have all been kept together, but they split it up and they put the second half, the other 2 books, into the Apocrypha, right? Okay. At the end of 40 days, Yahuah spoke to Ezra thus: 24 books of the Holy Scriptures thou shalt publish, for the worthy and the unworthy alike to read. So he said, everybody can read these. He said, but these books, hide these. He said, only the wise are going to go seek them out, right? Everybody else, we don't need all that. Well, we know what Scripture say about you, right? I want to be counted among the wise. Where's these books? Something missing. Where they at? I'm finding them, right? Look, that's what they talking about, y'all. For real. No joke. The 24 books of the Holy Scriptures thou shalt publish, for the worthy and the unworthy alike to read. But the last 70 books thou shalt withhold from the populace, for the pursuer of the wise of thy people. On account of his literary activity, he is called the scribe of science of the Supreme Being unto all eternity. Having finished his task, Ezra was removed from this mundane world, and he entered the life everlasting. But his death did not occur in the Holy Land. It overtook him at Kazakhstan in Persia on his journey to King Artaxerxes. At Rhaetia in Mesopotamia, there stood, as late as the 12th century, the synagogue founded by Ezra when he was journeying from Babylonia to Palestine. At his grave, over which columns of fire are often seen to hover at night, a miracle once happened. A shepherd fell asleep by the side of it. Ezra appeared to him and bade him to tell the Hebrews that they were to transport his bier to another spot. If the master of this new place refused to assent, he was to be warned to yield permission. Okay. If the master of the new place refused assent, he was to be warned to yield permission, else all the inhabitants of this place would perish. At first, the master refused to allow the necessary excavations to be made. Only after a large number of non-Hebrew inhabitants of the place had been stricken down suddenly, he consented to have the corpse transported thither. As soon as the grave was opened, the plague ceased. Shortly before the death of Ezra, the city of Babylon was totally destroyed by the Persians. There remained but a portion of the wall, which was impregnable by human strength. All the prophecies hurled against the city by the prophets were accomplished. To this day, there is a spot on its site which no animal can pass unless some of the earth of the place is strewn upon it. Where we at? Okay, we at the hour mark. Okay, you know what? I'll read this last section because this last little paragraph, then we can start chapter 12 tomorrow. Which I think this is the last chapter. Yeah. Oh, and the last chapter, it just goes all the way through. Let's see, make sure 12 is the last one.
My things in here?
No, they're not here yet, Pootie. Okay, yeah. We'll read this last part. And so all this last chapter 12 is all that happened. It's like the extension of the book of Esther. So it's going into a whole lot more detail than what the book of Esther did. But also there is some, I think it's 12 missing chapters. Is it 12? Don't quote me on that. But it's some missing chapters aside from this that you'll find in the Apocrypha of the book of Esther that goes into more detail as well. So when you read Esther, now, although what we have, it gives a good summation, like in the Holy Bible, it gives a good summation, but it's good to know some of this other detail so it can really make sense. Because some of the pieces in there is a little bit vague, right? It's going to like mind blown when you read all that together. Like, read the book of, actually, you probably should read the portion of, in the Apocrypha first, where it has the missing books of Esther. Because it was like there was this big book of Esther, and they pulled out pieces from the beginning to the end, and then left you with this right here, right? So the book was like this. I said it was like this. They pulled out from the beginning to the end and left you this, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I ain't mean to do that, y'all. They left you this much. I just saw what I was doing. I saw my hands. I'm not doing hand signals. They left you this much. So we'll start that tomorrow. So we're going to read this last little chapter here. Okay. The men of the great assembly. At the same time with Ezra, or to speak more accurately, under his direction, the great assembly carried on its beneficent activities, which laid the foundations of rabbinical Hebrewism and constituted for the binding link between the Hebrew prophet and the Hebrew sage. Great men who belonged to this august assembly once succeeded through the efficacy of their prayers in laying hands upon the seducers unto sin and confining them to prevent them from doing more mischief. Thus they banished from the world the desire unto idolatry. They tried to do the same to the desire of lustfulness. This evil adversary warned them against making away with him, for the world would cease to exist without him. For 3 days they kept him a prisoner, but then they had to dismiss him and let him go free. They found that not even an egg was to be held, for sexual appetite had vanished in the world. However, he did not escape altogether unscathed. They plastered up his eyes. Hold on. Let me go back and read this again. Hold on. Let's go back up. Okay. At the same time with Ezra, or to speak more accurately, under his direction, the great assembly carried on its beneficent activities, which laid the foundations of rabbinical Hebrewism and constituted the binding link between the Hebrew prophet and the Hebrew sage. The great men who belonged to this august assembly once succeeded, through the efficacy of their prayers, in laying hands upon the seducers unto sin and confined them to prevent them from doing more mischief. Thus they banished from the world the desire unto idolatry. They tried to do the same to the desire unto lustfulness. This evil adversary warned them against making away with him, for the world would cease to exist without him. Okay, so their prayers are binding spirits. Okay, I got it. Yes.
Why are these small?
Because it's for small cupcakes, baby girl. Hop down. Okay.
Cupcakes?
This evil adversary. This evil adversary. Tootie.
I make my cupcakes.
Not yet. Get down. Get down. Put it back. Get down. Sorry. This evil adversary warned them against making away with him. Like, okay, I see what y'all done did to this spirit over here, but don't try and do that with me, right? Don't try and do that with me. He said, because it's the world would cease if I, the spirit of lust, was not running rampant about here, right? So listen. This evil adversary warned them against making away with him, for the world would cease to exist without him. For 3 days they kept him a prisoner, but then they had to dismiss him and let him go free. Bella, stop. They found that not even an egg was to be had, for sexual appetite had vanished from the world. Like, even the chickens not laying eggs. Like, ain't nobody doing it. They found that not even an egg was to be had, for sexual appetite had vanished from the world. However, he did not escape altogether unscathed. They plastered up his eyes, and from that time on he gave up inflaming the passions of men against their blood relations. Among the decrees and ordinances of the Great Assembly, the most prominent is the fixation of the prayer of the 18 benedictions. The several benedictions composing this prayer date back to remote ancient times. The patriarchs were their authors, and the work of the Great Assembly was to put them together in the order in which we now have them. We know how each of the benedictions originated. 1. When Abraham was saved from the furnace, angels spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Lord, shield of Abraham," which is the essence of the first of the 18. 2. When Isaac lay stunned by fright on Mount Moriah, Yahuah sent his dew to revive him, whereupon the angel spoke, "Blessed be thou, O Lord, who quickenest the dead." 3. When Jacob arrived at the gate of heaven and proclaimed the holiness of Yahuah, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Lord, thou holy God." 4. When Pharaoh was about to make Joseph the ruler over Egypt, it appeared that he was unacquainted with the 70 tongues with which the Egyptian sovereign must know. The angel Gabriel came to him and taught him those languages, whereupon the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Lord, who graciously bestows knowledge." Y'all remember that, right? Remember? He was supposed to go before Pharaoh the next day, and all the king's court, all of Pharaoh's court. He said, "How you going to put a Hebrew in charge, like directly under you, King Pharaoh?" He said, "Somebody that rules must know the languages of all the world," which at that time they were calling it 70 nations. He has to know all the 70 languages, and he only knows Hebrew. Okay, well, let him prove that. And remember, there were 70 steps. I love this portion of it. Matter of fact, if you go back and pull it up, it's actually that video. It's called, I believe it's 70 steps. I labeled it 70 steps to Ascension, or Ascending the 70 steps. In the title, it got 70 steps and ascending in it. So it was really good. You got to go listen to that, or find that portion in here and read it. Matter of fact, I'll put the portion in here so you can go read it. Put 70 steps. I know I always say this, y'all, but I do put them in there. I hope y'all actually go back if y'all wanted it, because I do before. I try to get it done before the morning is over. Yesterday I kind of posted a little bit late what I said I was going to post about Jonah, Elijah, and the lion's den for things, but it's there in the description and tag or pin in the comment section, so it's there. Y'all can read it. Okay, listen. So he said let him prove it, and whatever language you spoke, like say each step represented a language, all the way up to the throne where you were face to face at the 70th step with Pharaoh, and you can speak with him face to face. Right, however many languages you spoke, you could only ascend that many stairs, right? So if you only knew one language, you could only step on the first step and pray that the king could hear your request, right? You know 5, you can go up 5 steps, right? So it behooves us, like, if we, there's like this process, right? like a process that you have to follow in order to ascend the throne and in order to speak face to face with the ruler, right? I see it being no different with ascending to Yahuwah's throne. There's just certain things that have to be done. Like you have to purify your life. Like granted, he'll speak to you. And notice how sometimes children will hear a lot clearer from Yah than what adults do. Why? Because they haven't maintained it. They are more pure than a lot of the adults roaming this earth, right? So they'll hear clearly and they'll see clearly. That's why you can almost take to the bank anything a child says. Like when my children speak and it seemed like they done spoke something out the blue, I learned to listen, right? Now what they said, hold on, I need to say that. What you just said, child? Okay, who? Like they'll say stuff and it'll catch. I'm like, what? What did you just say? And they'll just repeat it. I'm like, why did you say that? I don't know. I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, okay, Father, clearly that was you. You know, so there's like I could go through a list of stuff that I've heard my children say and I've took it to heart. And some of them things have saved our butt. I'm like, Father, was we not listening? They like said this, playing with the toys and just utter these words. I'm like, what? Wait, what are you saying? What are you playing? What is your dog baby saying? You know? So I'm just saying, if you find yourself in the process of being cleansed out and you got a bunch of little small kids, listen up to them, right? Listen, because Yahuwah will use them. Okay, 70 steps, right? So there was a benediction that they did for the knowledge that was bestowed upon Joseph, because the night before, Joseph really truly did only know Hebrew. It was Gabriel that came in and taught him all the 70 the other 69 languages, right? And so he got up in there, he got fresh and clean, went up in there, and everybody watching like, okay, we'll see how far this Hebrew slave go, right? And as he started, and every step he glided up them stairs, and every step he took, he changed his tone, right? He changed the language, and everybody's like, wait, what? Everybody like, by the time he got to the top where he face to face with Pharaoh, O king, right? Everybody was like, clearly, Pharaoh, you are wise. We know nothing. This is the man that should be ruling right under you, right? Y'all, that portion was so good. Y'all gotta go back and read it. Like I said, I'll post it for y'all. Okay, listen. Let me go back. Okay, number 4. When Pharaoh was about to make Joseph the ruler over Egypt, it appeared that he was unacquainted with the 70 tongues with which an Egyptian sovereign must know. The angel Gabriel came and taught him those languages, whereupon the angel spoke, Blessed art thou, O Yah, who graciously bestows knowledge. Number 5. When Reuben committed the trespass against his father, sentence of death was pronounced upon him in the heavens. But when he repented, he was permitted to continue to live, and the angel spoke, Blessed art thou, O Yah, who has delight in repentance. Number 6. When Judah committed a trespass against Tamar and confessing his guilt, obtained forgiveness, the angel spoke, Blessed art thou, O Yah, who pardonest greatly. Number 7. When Israel was sore oppressed by Mizraim, or Egypt, remember Mizraim is another name for Egypt. When Israel was sore oppressed by Mizraim, Yahuwah proclaimed his redemption. The angel spoke, Blessed art thou, O Yah, who redeems Israel. Number 8. When the angel Raphael came to Abraham to soothe the pain of his circumcision, the angel spoke, Blessed art thou, O Yah, who healest the sick. Number 9. When Israel's sowing in the land of the Philistines bore an abundant harvest, the angel spoke, Blessed art thou, O Yah, who blesseth the years. Number 10. When Jacob was reunited with Joseph and Simeon in Egypt, the angel spoke, Blessed art thou, O Yah, who gatherest and dispersed thy people Israel. Number 11. When the Torah was revealed and Yahuwah communicated the code of the laws to Moses, the angel spoke, Blessed art thou, O Yah, who lovest righteousness and justice. And may Yahuwah have mercy on those who would tell us that all. Every time I think about this, I cringe and I shake, and I am afraid for those who teach Yahuwah's people not to keep his commands, right? Like there is a shaking that happens. now that I understand what's going on, and all those that knowingly and ignorantly tell people, no, that doesn't matter. You don't do those anymore. This is what we follow now. No, if his people would realize that this is why we're in the state of affairs that we're in today, to the four corners of the earth, all his people, and we can be pinpointed out of every nation wherever we are, right? It said the nations will be they will be horrified at the treatment you get because you do not keep my commands, right? We can be pinpointed all over the earth. The curse has followed us for millennia since we have been exiled from our land, right? Everybody knows who we are, right? They called us by many names. They changed our names, and today we're known by the current byword of nigger or nigger, right? That's us, the hard-headed ones, the stiff-necked ones, right? All the nations are horrified at the treatment we get. Hold on, let me get started. I feel a heat rushing over me. Whew, okay. Okay, y'all. 11. When the Torah was revealed and Yahuah communicated the code of the laws to Moses, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, who lovest righteousness and justice." Number 12. When the Egyptians were drowned in the Red Sea, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, who shatterest the enemy and humiliate the presumptuous." Number 13. When Joseph laid hands on the eyes of his father Jacob, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, who are the stay and the support of the pious." Number 14. When Solomon built the temple, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, who buildest Jerusalem." Number 15. When the children of Israel, singing hymns of praise unto Yahuah, passed through the Red Sea, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, who caused the hour of salvation to sprout forth." Number 16. When Yahuah lent a gracious ear to the prayer of the suffering Israelites in Egypt, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, who hearest our prayer." Number 17. When the Shekinah descended between the cherubim and the tabernacle, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, who will restore thy divine presence to Jerusalem." Number 18. When Solomon dedicated his temple, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, whose name is worthy of praise." Number 19. When Israel entered the Holy Land, the angel spoke, "Blessed art thou, O Yah, who established peace." And that, my beautiful people, is the end of chapter 11 in the Legends of the Jews. And we're stopping here today. Tomorrow we will pick up with the last chapter in this book, chapter 12. And like I said before, it is going all through the book of Esther, giving you way more detail than the canonized Bible ever gave, right? And so, guys, y'all know how many pages we done read. Don't ever say y'all can't read a book 500 pages long, right? This book, we at page 488. We read every single page. We've been reading it for months. It don't even seem like it's been that long, right? Yo. So when we get done, we would have read 513 pages. I'm going to show y'all. That's the last page. Can you see it? Make sure it's not blurry. They look backwards to me, but I checked the videos yesterday, so they should look right to y'all. Can y'all see it? 513. Okay. 513 pages. Just reading a couple pages a day. Some days we only read like one page, just depending on what it was and how many of my daily life stories that I added into the reading, right? Okay. So I'm super excited about that. So the next book, like I said, how many pages is this? I think this is about, although this is smaller, this is not even as long. And this got I ain't gonna say it got a lot, but through it has pictures of the different things that we're gonna be talking about, so you can learn how to recognize some of these pagan symbols right in front of your face that is hidden in plain sight, but we've been put to sleep and we don't even see it, and how it's all in the building designs and everything, y'all. But this is only and we don't know how to read these pages right here because it's a bunch of pictures. But anyway, this is 367 pages, right? It's It's not even going to take us that long to read this. I mean, I don't know. Well, definitely not because page-wise, right? This is it's almost 200 more pages than that. So, but don't ever say y'all can't get through it. And everybody sitting on the edge of their chair listening to it, right? And some of y'all got it and y'all read right along. Okay, y'all. So, that's it for the day, right? It is Saturday, April the 17th, 2021, day 130 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, y'all. Day 799. We two milestones tomorrow. We start on the 800 day count and the last chapter 12, right? Okay, so remember that 799 days without the Sabbath days and the Sabbath feast days added in. And right off the top, we know, if Yahuah says in the book of Enoch, that every single year, from the beginning of time until the end of time, when time is counted, until we enter into eternity, that every single year would be a perfect 352 days, right? No, I'm sorry. I'm mixing it up. Stricken that last comment from the record. It's going to be it's going to be a perfect 364 days, but 52 weeks perfectly. That's what I meant. I said 352. I was thinking about the days and the weeks mixed together, but it's 364 days exactly every single year, and every single year is a perfect 52 weeks. So we know if we rest one day out the week, out of all 52 weeks, that's 52 Sabbaths, right? So right off top, with the 2 years that we've already done, if we want to add them into the count, we know right off top, we got 52 days that we did not count because that's 52 Sabbaths. Those days we rested. So you can add in 52 days for the first year, 52 days for the second year. We're a quarter way through the year this year, so you can take them Sabbaths, add those in as well, right? And let's count. Okay, so the Sabbath feast days, we need to double check them and count those up as well, right? We know we have a Sabbath at the beginning and the end of unleavened bread, and one at the beginning at the end of Sukkot. We know that the Day of Atonement is a complete day of rest. All the other ones like Passover, first fruits, they're not Sabbath days, and trumpets, they're not Sabbath days, but they're feast days, but they're still normal work days, right? So you can take those days, count them up, add those into the count, and you will see. And I did it yesterday. We're not close at the 1,000. I know some days I said we're over the 1,000, but it's not quite over the 1,000 day mark if you add those in. But we hitting it really close. We really close to the 1,000 day mark, right? Okay. So that's just a little bit of fun fact. We read 1 Kings 19, 20, and 21, and Legends of the Jews, page 485, all the way to page 488. And I remember, like I said, I add in the video and the link so you can read it as well, where it goes through the Ascension of the 70 steps. Like I said, it was completely awesome, Trina. Right? Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the Shema real quick, and I'll double check. I don't think there's any questions today. But I'll double check real quick. My grandbaby's about to come over here. She said she'll be here in an hour. Alright, it's about to get loud over here. I just know it. I just know it is. I know I said node. Like, I know that's improper English, y'all. I know, cause some people have no sense of humor about themselves. Okay, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuah bless us and keep us. May Yahuah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name on the children of Israel, and I will bless them. Right? All right, y'all. So, like I said, this is the book we start with next in a few days. Fossilized Customs. If you didn't get the screenshot, go ahead and take it so you can see what it looked like. It's by Lou White. This, I explained this if you was here the other day. Fossilized Customs is about the beast unveiled. All the deception and this unveiling how Christianity is the strong delusion that Yahuah has talked about, right? And it's going to go through the details and how Yahuah laid it out for us, right? And if we stuck in it, we can't see it, right? We're stuck in the midst of the strong delusion. Blessed be the most holy that he has awakened us and we have returned to him and him alone, right? Okay. Oh, you're welcome, Christy. She said, thank you for penning these excerpts I was reading last night from Elisha. And guess what? I fell asleep. But I will finish reading today. That's what I be doing. Look, Christy. Sometimes I be getting all this stuff now. Look, I'm gonna clean off my nightstand. My nightstand now is overrun with books. And my husband, he's like, listen, it's time to clean that nightstand off. I know, babe. I be trying to read everything at one time. I be falling asleep. He's like, girl, if you don't close that and go to sleep, sometime I be sleeping. I mean, not sleeping. I be laying in the bed and I'm like reading. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so good. Right? It be so good. Then my body starts taking over. Like, all right, sis, go ahead and put it down. Like I said, I need to put this down. But it be so good. And next thing I know, boom, I done hit myself in the head with the book because it fell out my hand. Or if I have the electronic version, I read it on my phone, boom, right in the lip. I'm like, oh, this is not this serious. Darn it. Oh. Pick the phone up, open it back up. Boom. Hit me again. I'm like, Pam, this book is not going anywhere. Go to sleep. So some nights I really do be up. Not all nights, but you know, I can't do that every night. But some nights my husband fall asleep before me. I'm like, you sleep yet? I'm up reading. I hear him turn. I'm like, I be faking like I'm asleep. Say, girl, if you don't put that book down, go to sleep. I was like, okay, babe, okay. He said, them books not going anywhere. So, needless to say, I got a bunch of manuals on my nightstand. Probably about once a month. I clean it all off. I was like, okay, I'm one book at a time, Pam. One book at a time. Maybe two. Reference back and forth. Possibly no more than three. Next day, it's literally, I kid you not, it's like 20 books sitting on my nightstand, y'all. Like, seriously. And they stacked up. Because I be, not all of them, right? But I be going through and put myself, oh, I found that there, yep. So I need everything right at my disposal. It's like, I need to leave all that stuff in one area. Take it out the bedroom, right? But if my husband's sleeping and he working on some papers, like, okay, well, why are you doing that? I'm going to go ahead and do this. And so I'm studying, I'm pulling up stuff, attaching pieces here and there. So, but yeah, I have this love for books. Like, I just do. I just really do. Okay. Enough about that. Okay. I don't think there's anything over here on YouTube. Let's see. She doing good, Trina. You probably see some of the pictures. Well, I'm not sure if you can see them. You may be able to see them when Tara tags me in them on there. But girl, she growing. It's just as big and beautiful as she want to be. Okay, y'all. That's it. We out of here. Let's go ahead and get out of here. I'll see y'all tomorrow. Bright and early. 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Love y'all. See you in the morning. Peace.